What is up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome to another episode of the Reviewpoint podcast, coming to you from fanboysanonymous.com. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me for this edition is Caroline Oliveira.
Hi.
You're so cute. So, we are going to be reviewing for this edition the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is kind of the end of it, but not really, because they're going to continue to do these because they make $1 billion per movie, and why the hell not? They're amazing. Which is Avengers Endgame, the 22nd movie of the franchise. I'm not too sure off the top of my head, but I'm not going to edit this, so that's good enough. And we're going to break down things the way that I normally do here, where it's a non-spoiler review set up first, and then after that we'll give you some warnings about the spoiler section for this and break down the hits and the misses, what we liked, what we didn't like, all the kind of stuff that's in between. And we invite you to do the same in the comments below, so go ahead and do that if you are listening on YouTube. If you are on iTunes or Stitcher or Spotify or anything else like that, then hop on over to fanboysanonymous.com and find the post and drop your comments there, or wherever else you want to do that. Tweet at me or, whatever. Just get your opinions out there. That's what we're going to be doing here, so strap yourselves in. So we're going to start things off with just a general idea. Actually, before we get into that, we should just remind everybody that, obviously, if you have not seen all of the other movies leading up to this point, we're going to treat this as like the non-spoiler section is spoilers for the other movies. So I don't know why you would listening to an Endgame review if you like not seen like Guardians 2 or something like that. But yeah, so that stuff's going to be spoilers just ahead. We have both seen all the movies, and how are you feeling coming out of this movie? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you gonna dance around, or
I liked it a lot. I mean, it was tough to not go to the bathroom towards the end for me because I made the mistake of buying a large drink. So that's also a heads up for everybody. It is, 3 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So pace yourself. Don't make the mistake that I did. I was able to last till the end, but it was rough. I was like sweating. No, but being serious now, like, yes, I liked it a lot. I think we'll get to some of the specifics of, certain things that maybe we both agree that could have been different, and certain things that we're disagreeing 100%. But I liked it, and Hulk is great. I love Hulk.
I felt very pleased with everything. I don't think this is going to be my favorite out of all the movies, but at the same time, I've warmed them up to a couple other movies in the past, and I've some other ones don't hold up as well, and I feel like this is going to hold up a little bit better than I thought that it would, even after like a few minutes of seeing it. The more that I think about it, the more that I think I'm actually going to really enjoy watching it for a second time. And of course, I'm going to watch it for a third and a fourth and a 15th and whatever. But I feel like this is the end of a really, really long journey, and instead of it being like it came out disappointing, like, let's just say, like, for instance, if the Lord of the Rings movies had been 20 movies instead of 3, and if it would have ended with just, like, I don't know, one of the 15 endings that they had for that, and one of them was just, like, everybody's dead or something like that, then I think that would have been a little bit disappointing and stuff. And going through 20-something movies for this, I feel like this is a good end to everything, and there's stuff to nitpick, for sure, and we're going to definitely nitpick things when it comes to spoilers, but I don't feel disappointed, and we saw it with a big group of people, and I don't know if anybody was really all that super happy about it.
I mean, it's rough because, like you said, we've been watching these movies for a while, and we know these characters, and I guess there's also that part of us that is like in denial that that this is like the final Avengers movie. So I don't think, even if it was on paper the most perfect thing in the world, I don't think a true fan, and I don't even consider myself a true fan. I feel like I'm kind of a fake fan because I am more into DC characters, not the movies, guys. Don't kill me. But I didn't really grow up reading Marvel comics. So, that's why I consider myself kind of a fake fan. But, was always a really big fan of the Hulk. I will say that. He's awesome. But yeah, I think it's just like, it's really hard to just make it a perfect movie and please the fans completely 100%. But I agree. It's a good movie.
It's really tough because you for sure go into this movie with a lot of expectations, and I guess it's kind of like when people read the book first before a movie, they build this idea in their mind of what something is, and then the next thing you know, it didn't live up to it, and that's not necessarily the fault of the movie, that it didn't meet what you had in your brain. And that's why even something like some of the nitpicks that I can get into, like maybe they shouldn't have gone this direction with that character, or maybe they missed this opportunity to do that with somebody, or actually like a good equivalent to this is something that I don't know if I mentioned it in the Infinity War review that I had done, but I kind of look back on those movies and I say it's a shame that they called Thor's axe Stormbreaker, because I know that Stormbreaker is the hammer that Beta Ray Bill uses, and that there's an axe in the comics that's, I don't know, some kind of Norwegian name. It's like Jorgemurgner or something like that. And that's like, well, that's already an axe, and they could have used that, and why didn't they do that? And now that kind of ruins Stormbreaker for Beta Ray Bill, and that kind of ruins Beta Ray Bill, and then like I kind of build that kind of stuff in my mind. So I have nitpicks when it comes to stuff like that, but at the same time, they're making their own set of movies here, and I know that a lot of people were upset that Ultron wasn't created from Hank Pym like in the comics, and I think that like Tony Stark doing that makes a lot more sense. So some changes are for the better, and some are nitpicks that are in like the plot wise, and some are on like the being a true fan kind of a thing, and some of it's just kind of out there. So I can totally see people walking out of this movie feeling disappointed, but I don't think any of them really should feel disappointed with the movie. I think that they would be disappointed with their fandom of it, kind
I
of.
think that's a really good way to put it.
I don't think anybody's gonna. I'm gonna go down this diatribe again, but I walked out of The Last Jedi super pissed about so many things, and half of it was, how could you do that to Luke Skywalker, and the whole thing doesn't make any sense, and they ruined the whole 6 movies that came before it, and all like the fandom side of things. But another part of me was going, the Canto Bight stuff was a complete waste of time, and there's this plot hole, and how do they do, hyperspace through a ship if that's been never in any of the other movies? Why didn't anybody just do that? And plot errors, and like a better filmmaker would have made a better movie, even if they went in the same direction for the stuff that I absolutely fucking hated. So I don't feel like this movie does anything like that, where it's kind of like, you ruined the Avengers and crapped all over everything that came before it. I think if anybody's going to complain about anything, it's going to be the little moments, and maybe actually some people that are going to say it's a little predictable.
Yeah.
Like, I know Dace was one of the people, and I asked Dace right afterward, I said, what do you think? Because Dace was going into this. People should know Dace by now. You guys know him. He said he was kind of bugged by the idea that he saw where a lot of this was coming and they didn't really shock him. And I brought up a couple ideas right after that I said, well, I thought such and such was shocking, and then this and then that. And he was like, well, yeah. So it's like, I think that that's going to be something. I think some people are going to have to watch this movie a second time and they might like it better.
Yes.
And then some people are going to watch it an 8th time and come across some other kind of like, this doesn't make any sense if this and that. And for anybody who maps out all this stuff afterward, please link me, because I'm confused about some of this stuff too. So I feel like if we're keeping on the non-spoiler section, let's talk about some of the other stuff. Like, what did you think about the music?
I liked it. I feel like music is like more your area. You tend to pay more attention on the music side of things, but with me, it's music in movies to me, obviously are extremely important, because they can either just, you want for okay, let me rephrase this. For music to be successful in a movie, in my opinion, is it will add to the emotion of what a scene is doing, but it won't completely remove you from what's going on. So it's just like there to enhance. And obviously, like, non-spoilers, but there are some obviously musical like nods to previous movies that were kind of like cool to see. I guess we'll talk about that in the spoilers, but yeah, I mean, I just go to these movies expecting that the soundtrack is gonna be nice and not, Skrillex. Just
If there's dubstep in the middle of this movie, then it would be certainly one of the misses. It would just be I can't see Thanos with like a rave.
That's my Skrillex.
Yeah, the music, I don't know if this is going to be one of the ones where I'm going to download a bunch of, buy. Yes, buy.
Yes.
A lot of,
very legal.
legally buy torrents. Some of the, like, songs from there, the same as, like, Stark Goes Green from the first Avengers is, like, very, like, stands out to me as a really good song from Alan Silvestri. And obviously, like, the Avengers theme pops up in this. That's no spoiler. If anybody thinks that's a spoiler, I don't know what to tell you. But I don't know. It's kind of like how certain Bond movies have some songs on it that I really like, and certain other ones I can go through the entire soundtrack. Like, I don't think that there's a single song from Spectre that I have other than the main theme. And the whole, like, background stuff that came to this, I don't think any of it stood out to me. So it kind of supported it, but it didn't. I don't know if it's going to be something to be like, let me pop that on and listen to it.
I still feel like you're still going to download it because I feel like with you, there's going to be this underlying emotional connection to the soundtrack where it's going to be, it's like not my favorite, but it's the end game, so yeah.
I might. Yeah. It might happen. Let's see. Characters wise, that's kind of hard to do in a non-spoiler section, so we're going to save that a little bit. And plot, obviously, we can't tell you the plot. Can't tell you our biggest hits and misses and everything like that, but we can talk about special effects.
Yes.
So
I was looking forward to that.
That was great. No like problems at all, and
no, there were some scenes that, and Tony and I, when we watch movies, especially at home, we talk a lot. But obviously this one, like, we were mainly quiet, except for maybe like once or twice where we just like made quick comments to each other, and one of them was like, whoa, as far as special effects go. I mean, it's not a surprise to everyone that, now with CGI you can, I mean, even with like the first the first Captain America movie, yes, like we saw him like change bodies, like, and it was so well done even back then that it wasn't, it's like some movies, like especially like in the past, you can tell when there's like a green screen, or like the CGI is not so good. But now we know that things are so advanced that you can change someone's body, you can change someone's age, you can change almost anything and everything and still make it look really believable.
Yeah, I think that if this doesn't win Best Visual Effects for the next Oscars, the only way it isn't going to win is because something came along, like
something mind-blowing.
Yeah, something that really is, that they took something to a whole new level, like kind of like an Avatar type of thing, but I don't even know what that whole new level would be.
Or politics.
Yeah, it could be that too.
I do have to say though, and I guess I'll get into this specific thing more in the spoilers, but there was one practical effect in it that took me out a little bit. And I used to do practical effects like for indie movies, so obviously like not as good as these like amazing people, and I doubt that I could do any better than they did. But there was like this one little element that was kind of like for me. But all like maybe just because I'm a snob, and I'm a really big fan of practical effects. So that's always something that I study a lot when I watch a movie. And there was like one little thing that was just like, that's bothering me a little bit, but overall, amazing.
Okay, well, that's our non-spoiler section. So from now on, for the whole rest of this, you are warned. We are going to talk about everything. People who may not make it to the end of the movie. There's lots of stuff to break down. So spoiler warning for everything from this point on. If you listen to it, go ahead. I'm giving you the warning. But maybe you don't want to know, and then if that's the case, then skip to the very end and I don't know, listen to the plugs or something. But if you don't mind the spoilers, or maybe you do want to know what the spoilers are, and maybe you're the type of person who likes that, I don't know, then by all means continue listening. But I'm gonna give you about a 3-second break just in case. And there you go. Now you have no excuse. So Scarlett Johansson gets killed. No, just well, no, she doesn't get killed. Obviously her character, but yeah, we're gonna break down character wise. But actually, before we get into characters, I want to pick up on this train of thought from before. The practical effect that threw you off. What was it that bugged you?
Okay, so Thor's body.
Yeah.
We're spoiling it, so yeah. So in the movie, like, Thor is going for this massive depressive episode, because of everything that happened. And he's been only drinking beer, eating crap, and playing video games. So he has a big belly, which was not the part that annoyed me. The belly itself, like, I thought was really interesting because they gave him the body of somebody that, not so much of a bodybuilder because they have no, like, body fat, but like a fighter or somebody who is like big, has like fat, but you can still see muscles, which I thought was really nice. The belly. The thing that took me out of it were his tits. Yes, he needed to have tits.
Oh, man boobs.
Yes,
the moobs threw you off.
The moobs, yes. Was not quite fond of how they were falling. That and I mean, it is like a kind of like a harder thing, I think, to sculpt, because also I guess when you have somebody who's like that overweight and has like manly saggy tits, you expect some movement, and there were none. So it makes me think that
it was like plastic or something. Like, I mean, obviously it was plastic. It wasn't real flesh or something. But
well, it was probably foam. It's a side note just for me to feel like such a snob. But like when you make a prosthetic like that, you basically can do them out of silicone and foam. Silicone looks better, but it's really heavy and really, really hot. So it's not comfortable. So I'm guessing foam. It's just like they had no movement when they should have a slight movement. So that took me out a little bit. That made me go like, oh, yeah, no, this is fake. And at first I couldn't pinpoint what it was that was bothering me. I'm like, is that the stomach? No, like the stomach looks like, no, it's the tits. I feel like that was very anticlimactic. I feel like you guys were waiting for me to be like, oh, that ship, or no, it's just Thor's new tits.
The moves.
Sorry.
Let's talk Thor while we're at it, because we're talking Thor. Yeah, his arc of the movie, again, this is all spoilers. So the beginning of the movie, they track down Thanos, and he's been feeling over the past 23 days or so, I think that they had said it was, he's really angry, feeling like he's the one that screwed everything up, and that if he would have just gone for the head, like what Thanos said, then he would have been able to stop everything. So when they eventually come across Thanos, and they find out that everything's all for naught, and they can't go back and just unsnap everything, that he just flat out decapitates him. And I really liked that, and that was one of my hits for sure. Was he's a different character at this point than he was in the first Thor, but in the first Thor, I mean, he had been 1,500 years old or something at that point, so he already learned this, like, warmongering kind of idea, and even though Thor right now after Ragnarok has become more of like a bro, he's still
A very
somebody.
nice bro.
Yeah, he's
Not
not like
annoying bro.
not at the bar hitting on people like that kind of thing, but he still has that warmongering side of him that he's going to go straight to, well, I'm just going to punch somebody
Yeah.
or, whatever. So he
He's
would,
impulsive.
yeah, and he would be the type that would be like, I'm angry that I didn't do this, so I'm going to chop your fucking head off,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And that, that's such an important thing for them to write in this movie because, we have somebody like Cap who's like very righteous and correct. And with Thor, like, at the end of the day, he's kind of like a Viking. He's a god, but there's like the human element to him, which is very impulsive and like very passionate. And like even in the first movie, he started out as a big brat. And even though now, like, he's one of my I did not like him in the beginning of the very first Thor movie. I was like so annoyed. I was like, this is like those dudes that like go to the bar that is under my building and they're just like vomiting everywhere when I'm trying to walk my dog, and they have like the pop like collar on their polo shirt. Like, I hate that stuff.
Puka shell necklace.
Oh God, the pastel colored polo shirt with the fitted jeans with like the cuffs like I hate that stuff. But then like he became one of my favorite characters, and part of why I really love him is that he is impulsive and he's like very passionate. So when he did that, not only was like, yeah, heavy metal in my part, but it's also like, yeah, like that's what you expect from his character.
Yeah, everybody was true to their character, and there wasn't like any that I can think of at the very least. When we start going down the list, I might go, that was a little off or something, but off the top of my head, I don't think anybody was not in the headspace of their character from not just like the moments that they were in the future and everything, but even when they go into the past and stuff. And one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I'm sentimental and I'm a sap when it comes to this kind of stuff, but like,
it's so cute.
No, it isn't. I really liked how when Thor went back in time that he was kind of like, Rene Russo's character Frigga, I don't know how they pronounce it in the movies, and it's both pronunciations are right. He goes back to the day that she is going to die from the Dark Elves, and there's a great little couple of moments where she recognizes that he's in the from the future, and that she gives him a little bit of sage advice about being like, if you're a failure, you're just like everybody else because everybody fails. And that would have been good enough on its own, but I was kind of hoping for at least something where he would say, like, I love you one more time or something, because he didn't get to do that in the movie. And he gets to do that. And that makes it all that much better because he gets a little bit of closure on his mom's death. And he gets to know that even she kind of knows that he's about to say, you're going to die. And she's like, don't bother, like, whatever, it's fine, that kind of a thing. Yeah. So I like that a lot. That was one of my favorite moments. And usually on these movies, more than any other type of movie, I really like the character moments more than anything else. Like, I don't dislike the action, of course, because that's super fun, and I'm going to talk about a particular moment that actually made me tear up. But it's the characters that make this stuff so good, and seeing, like, I mean, Thor the Dark World came out in like 2014 or something, like however many years ago, and that is something that over the course of Thor Ragnarok and Infinity War, when like in Infinity War where he's talking to Rocket and he's like, well, you said your dad's dead, you got your mom, and he's like, no, she's dead too, and whatever, and what else can I lose? Like, he's going through a lot, and I like those kind of moments a lot. And pretty much any part in this movie that had some kind of sentimental thing to it, I was like, I like this a lot. I like that Thor also had that shot where he gets Mjolnir back,
Mm-hmm.
and he gets all excited, going, "I'm still worthy!" Like
Yeah.
that was cute.
He needed that.
Yeah, that was the confidence boost that he
Yeah.
needed. And by the end of the movie, Thor, he has already settled New Asgard, which was one of my checklist things that I really wanted them to have New Asgard, and he leaves Valkyrie
Mm-hmm.
in charge, which I like and I don't like. That's where one of those nitpick things can come into play, because my nitpick is I want these two other things about Thor that we haven't seen yet, which are Rune King Thor, which is when Thor is like insanely powerful and all this other kind of stuff, but I don't know how they would be able to do that. And the Odin Force Thor, which is where he actually becomes Odin, basically. Like, he has the same type, like Odin had all those like extra little powers on top of things, and I kind of wanted Thor to end the movie as like Odin Force, super incredibly godly powerful Thor, who is the de facto ruler of the realms kind of thing. But even better than that, we get as Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like where they're going.
Yeah.
And I love that title. That's like perfect. I hope that they do that instead of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That'd be fine too, but like the way that they wrapped up Thor, I feel good about
Me
it.
too.
Like, I think that they're going to do another one. I think that they're going to do as Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think that Thor Ragnarok got them to say, let's continue to do Thor, and
Yeah.
not just kind of end things the way that they ended.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely open ended.
Yeah.
Whereas like some other of the stories with some of the characters in Endgame nicely like ended like with like a big bow, can really go from there. But with Thor, yeah, like I think that he took such a like a beatdown after the first Avengers movie, and this one, like, you see him being so like not confident at all, like freaking out, having a panic attack. So I think that I really like the fact that he's like, you know what, like, this is the first time that I don't have, and he says something like that, I forget the specific words, but when he's telling Valkyrie that now she's in charge, he's saying, this is like, she asks him, like, what's next, like, what are you gonna do? And he says, this is the first time that, like, I don't have to be like,
yeah, I don't have like a destiny.
I
or
don't
something.
have a destiny. And again, to me, that makes him even more human, because now, like, he knows he's powerful, and I feel like he might have to even like relearn that, and maybe that's a way of him becoming even more powerful and going in the direction that you just said.
Maybe, yeah.
But I think that opens up a lot of story opportunities for him, and I like it. And he's so like lovable, and also like his interaction with Star-Lord is great.
Well, how did you feel with the Guardians? Because the Guardians end up with, and this was, I'm really confused about how some of this stuff works, because the time travel stuff, they kind of alluded to the fact that like movies tell you certain things, and then they like, there's good jokes about, like, you know, you mean to tell me Back to the Future is bullshit? Like that.
Side note, Tony has yet to see the movie.
Yeah, I've not seen Back to the Future. I have seen Die Hard. That's good joke in that. I like that part. But I'm really confused about stuff like Nebula kills her past self from
Yeah.
2014. So how does Nebula from the future still exist if Nebula from the past got killed?
I thought that she was, when she killed her past self, there was like a slight change in the light in her eyes. And in my head, I was like, oh, they're gonna do the whole thing of like the light going out of her eyes and she dies, but she doesn't. And maybe that was just like my brain, like, seeing things, but I really thought that she was just gonna die.
Yeah, that's really confusing to me. And now they've got like Gamora from 2014 was hanging around.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know any of the Guardians.
Right.
So is she still in what I'm assuming is supposed to be like 2019? at the 5 years after the one thing, and I mean I don't know what year this is supposed to take place. I kind of lost track of that, but like is Gamora the 2014 one from before Guardians 1, or is there some kind of thing where when they put everything back, like when they put the stones back, they obviously had to put them back before they started anything, which that defeats the purpose of, if you put that back before that, then they didn't get the stones, and then that in itself, where are the stones now?
Yeah.
Because the last shot that they're in is when Hulk is telling Steve to put them back, but that's for them to go back and then do the snap. So then there has to be a version of them. Oh wait, no, there isn't, because Thanos got rid of them. That's right.
Yeah.
He willed them out, so there are no stones anymore because they reached that point where they decapitate him. So there aren't any stones. So that defeats the purpose of that. Nobody in the future can really do the whole, like, well, now, I don't know, Doctor Doom gets all the stones and whatever. Like, they're just gonna have to do, like, Heart of the Universe, or, you know, any of the kind of Cosmic Cube, or any of the other kind of things that they would need to do with that kind of stuff. But the time travel stuff's confusing, and I don't know how that works with Nebula and Gamora, because now maybe Gamora is back because no, she was killed before the snap before, so that's
and they establish with Black Widow that she wouldn't be back.
Right.
So
it kind of seems weird, like, that they would do a Guardians movie without Gamora.
Well, I think that maybe the plot for the next one will be them, like, going on some sort of quest, but Star-Lord actively searching for her.
Yeah, they tease that at the end.
He is, like, I mean, we're guessing that after the big battle and everything, she just kind of, like, took off and disappeared because she doesn't really remember them. She doesn't know them yet, I guess. It's a better way of putting it. So she must be in the next movie. There's no way she's not going to, but
the one thing that I'm thinking maybe they're going to do, which if they planned this far ahead, then that's insane. Which, I mean, that's not really insane. They did all these 20-something movies to lead to this point, but there's that tease at the end of Guardians 2 with Adam Warlock, and you kind of can't do that without putting Adam Warlock in a movie, and I think it's really kind of cool if they do go ahead with the whole, like, Matthew McConaughey type thing or something, because I think that'd be kind of interesting. But in the comics, Adam Warlock is, like, extremely tied to the Soul Stone. And maybe, even though there's no Soul Stone anymore, maybe they can do something where he has, like, magic, or he's got some kind of connection. Maybe he was, like, born out of the Soul Stone, and that's why they're able to create people on that gold planet thing. I can't remember the name of it. Where it was her or she or whatever her name is, Aisha, like, maybe everybody's gold and everything because of the Soul Stone. And if that's the case, then maybe Adam Warlock is able to do something like go into the Soul World through some, like, back door and kind of merge the two versions of Gamora. So by the end of the next movie, she remembers all the stuff that happened, and that way she's like, oh, I'm back, like, that kind of thing, in the body of, like, her 2014-year-old self.
God.
Maybe something like that. And Thor's
maybe
just there being all like, oh, hey, you know, like, we're gonna flirt a little bit or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see what happens with that. I think that they tried in that scene between Hulk, what's her face? Tilda's character.
The ancient one?
Yeah, the ancient one. When she's trying to explain why he couldn't, like, take her stone, and she kind of, like, creates a visual thing, and then, you know, Bruce/Hulk says, like, no, like, what if we put them back? And then they try, and even that scene, to be honest, I get what they were going, but part of me, like, didn't, my brain kind of forced me not to pay attention to so many of the details that they were explaining, because I felt that it was really confusing. So I kind of just, like, went with, like, okay, so they just have to, like, return the stones.
They got a plan. Like,
they got a plan. Okay, cool. Like,
I
awesome.
really liked that because I really liked how they brought back Tilda Swinton.
I know.
And
that scene was awesome.
yeah, and how she takes his soul out and he's
Yeah.
Bruce Banner instead of the Hulk, and that there's that like kind of nod that she already knows what's going to happen with Doctor Strange because she said you're about 5 years too early.
Yeah.
And Stephen Strange is
She
still
knows,
doing
yeah.
whatever, so
Yeah.
like she knows that, which means that that kind of implies, even though some of this stuff gets erased and some of it is like they went and put the stones back and all that, that they kind of already knew that that was going to be the case with Doctor Strange, and that's why she is willing to give him as much leeway in the movies as he is able to be given. And
Yeah.
you know, I really liked that a lot, and I really liked how they did that with a lot of other things, like that they brought back like Hank Pym working with S.H.I.E.L.D. in the 70s, and that was the visual effect that we were both like, wow, because
Yeah.
they de-aged a couple people here and there, and they re-aged, and
That
you
would-
know,
yeah.
that like looked even better than it did in Ant-Man and Ant-Man 2. And now it's like, okay, well, that's just Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell the difference between, if you put that side by side, I wouldn't be able to tell.
He probably looked better in this than he actually looked.
They like cleared up some pimples and stuff.
I just wanted to like go back real quickly to the Ancient One Hulk scene. Like the one thing that I really liked about that scene was that they weren't physically fighting.
Yeah.
I thought that was like so good because it really brings back to the point that she's just so is spiritually like above, you know, everybody else, and Bruce has now like accepted the Hulk in a way that he's not this like angry guy, angry all the time, like he says. Like I forget, in the Avengers.
Yeah, the first one.
First one, yeah.
My secret, I'm angry all the time.
Yeah.
Or I'm always angry. That's what it is.
Yeah. Which is another thing, is like that he is able to be. He says like he's able to put the brains and the brawn together, and now he's just like Hulk.
And he's posing with kids and
and
taking selfies.
wearing like nice clothes, and
yeah,
he's so cute. So yeah, I thought that scene was like so just brilliant in a way because it was like a quiet scene.
Yeah, they didn't need to start fighting and then find out that she isn't threatened by him. She already kind of knew everything.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. And
or do like that thing that sometimes they're doing movies where they're fighting and talking, and then at one point like he says something that just brings the argument home, and she's like, "Oh, you mean that
Stephen Strange is whatever." Like,
oh, okay, here, take this.
Like they have that part where he says, "Well, why did Doctor Strange give it up?" And that's what convinces her. But they weren't in the middle of like, you know, let's pull my punch real quick and that kind of thing. And
yeah,
I liked too that took place during the Battle of New York, and that it shows that, you know, the Ancient One has been there. And when you go back and you look at the other movies and you think like, well, why wasn't Hydra doing anything with this, or why wasn't S.H.I.E.L.D. doing anything with that, or whatever? Like, why wasn't the Ancient One trying to help out with the Battle in New York? And then you see that she actually was. Like, she had her little spinny things going on, and, you know, like, so she wasn't, you know, standing there with the Avengers at the time, but that wasn't her concern. Her concern was protecting the Sanctum. So all she was doing was staying there. And Bleecker Street. And I really liked that touch. I really liked how they did the whole thing with when they went back in time and they were talking to different people, that like I was surprised that they got like Natalie Portman to come back, and they got Robert Redford to come back and be Alexander Pierce again,
but no Lupita.
No Lupita Nyong'o that I could see at the very
least.
I
was looking for her.
Yeah.
I have such a girl crush on her. I was actively looking for her and her beautiful buttery skin. She wasn't there. I was kind of like upset.
She wasn't there, but damn near everybody else was.
Maybe her tethered was.
What was that?
Her us version was.
Oh yeah, her tethered. I really liked how they did that. I was really surprised too, because I thought that maybe they would have, like, they have Loki back, and it was really cool to see stuff like what happens right after they're doing the whole
Yeah.
pose, and Stark says like, all right, we're not just gonna stand here and pose all day or something, and
Yeah.
that they, if you watch the Avengers, you can think that, well, what happened afterward was like that they told the Hulk to take the stairs,
Right.
and like
I
he's
love
all
that.
pissed about the stairs, and that they met up with Rumlow and Sitwell, and that's how they took the Mind Stone with Loki's staff, and that would make perfect sense because Shield would have come by and they would want to possess that again, and they're all the Hydra ones, and I really liked Cap saying "Hail Hydra."
Yeah,
that was cool.
That was awesome.
And I thought that they were going to do something with the elevator where he would say, if anybody wants to get off, like he did in Winter Soldier, but doing that was even better. And there's a great moment during that whole thing that I really, really liked a lot. A big hit for me was Cap is fighting Cap, and Cap thinks that the other version of Cap is Loki, which makes perfect sense, and changes it around, and he says, I could do this all day, and he goes, yeah, I know. I like that. I thought that was going to come into play in the fight with Thanos, and that he was going to say, I could do this all day. And
I thought so too. But I'm kind of glad they didn't, because I was just like, okay, calm down now. Like, you already used that line.
Yeah.
But that scene reminds me of another, like, probably one of my favorite one-liners in the whole movie. That's American's ass.
Yeah, that's
America's ass. Ant-Man was so funny in this, and like a lot of his moments, especially Rocket, were really, really funny. But
like Rocket saying like he's like a little puppy.
Yeah,
like
you want to go to space, little puppy? Look at him, he's so happy. Like but it's like he just, like, again, like, true to character, freaking out at first when he comes back and realizes what's going on, but yeah, so he brings to the Tony Stark brings to the attention that Cap's, I guess, previous uniform didn't really
I think he said something like that doesn't really do much for your ass or something.
Yeah, I was trying to like say something like a little bit more loquacious. But and then after the fight, Cap does agree. He's like, well, enemy. I guess Scott says like, no, like that's America's ass, and like that's so great because he's such a fanboy too.
Yeah. There's even a part that is like a little bit more subtle, but when Wasp is like, we got you, Cap, and whatever, and it's just kind of like, you can see that she's kind of fangirling a little bit, and like, yeah, the idea of him being like a fanboy of Captain America, and like Rocket saying like he's really good at this like speech stuff. Like,
yeah, everybody's like, oh. Everybody has a crush on him.
I don't blame him. I really liked all the kind of stuff that they did with Ant-Man. Like, here's another nitpick of mine though. They age Cassie up 5 years because they need to show the passage of time and everything. And one of the things that is a nitpick that I didn't even think about until right now, though, they don't establish in the movie if her mom and her stepdad vanished.
That's true.
So I don't know if that's a matter of like that they did vanish and they came back, because obviously everybody came back except for a couple people. But if they did, then that, like, she's been living on her own for 5 years, or if they all stayed around and she's just been living thinking that her dad was missing, because Scott Lang is missing on the thing, but they didn't really come across anybody else. So
yeah, on the memorial.
So I'm assuming that she just grew up with her other parents, and that's going to be something that they probably address in the future, being like, you missed 5 years worth of this, and he misses 5 years because he just kind of comes straight into the future. And but I'm disappointed that they're not going to have that little girl around anymore.
Yeah, she was so good.
She's adorable, and I mean, now she's older, of course, and I don't know how they're going to try to factor that in, but maybe they're going to do something with the quantum realm. Maybe they'll go back and talk to her from a different time or something.
You just really want that little girl back.
She's so cute.
She was so good.
And maybe the trade-off, though, is that she's going to be Stature in this. Right. So, and maybe they're going to get Black Ant or something. Maybe they'll do that in the movie. They'll get like Eric O'Grady, and I mean, I don't know how old she's supposed to be, but she's probably like 15 or something, like
I guess.
somewhere around there. So
Yeah.
if this takes place a couple more years in the future, maybe Erica Grady is going to be like some boy that she wants to date or something. Like, and they can do that whole like, you know, the dad not wanting to do that whole thing or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe it'll be interesting to see where they go with Ant-Man. But I really liked Ant-Man being a funny character in there and having some serious moments too, like him saying that he really wanted to do the time heist, as he called it, and stuff, and all that. Ant-Man was a hit for me for sure. I don't think I have any other nitpicks when it comes to Ant-Man and their kind of stuff. I liked the Hank Pym stuff. I liked seeing Wasp be a part of the battle. Like, all good stuff on that.
Yeah.
And Hawkeye, they do the Ronin story to a certain extent. He's got the Ronin gear, and he's
awful hairstyle.
Yeah,
so bad.
that should have been snapped.
Yes.
He goes through the Ronin thing because his family's disappeared, kind of like what everybody sort of assumed was going to be happening in the movie, and that's how they actually start the movie, which I like that, because that's, you know, just a little reminder of what it's like to watch somebody disappear. And I'm assuming where they go from here in that Hawkeye TV show that they're going to do is that he's basically retired, but at the same time he's going to train Kate Bishop, and she's going to be the new Hawkeye, and he'll just be dad, essentially, and that's fine. Like, Hawkeye's never been the type of character that I feel needs to have, like, you know, he should have had 3 movies or something. He's a supporting character, so.
He is, and you know what? I don't really like him. Like, I for some reason, I have a really hard time having some sort of emotional connection to his character. I like his sword. That was about it. But that being said, we talked about this on our way here. We disagree on this, but when he is with Black Widow and they're trying to get the
Soul Stone on Vormir.
I know them by colors. Sue me.
The orange one.
One of them has to sacrifice themselves. Right off the bat, I'm like, just kill her.
Yeah.
One, I don't like her. I cannot stand her. Oh my god, I just have such big hatred for her. Anyways, but also I'm like, he has a family. She doesn't have anyone. She's disposable. Like, go away.
And I disagree with that, not because of the family thing, because obviously I wouldn't have wanted it to end with, like, the family doesn't have Hawkeye anymore, and that there is no Kate Bishop story and all that. I was hoping that what they would do was that Hawkeye would sacrifice himself, and that throughout the process of them undoing things, they would be able to bring Clint back for his family. I kind of assumed, wrongly, that everybody would kind of work out well in the end, and that there wouldn't actually be any deaths. And I thought if there was going to be any deaths, it would be one, and it would be either Captain America or Tony Stark. And I didn't see Black Widow dying being a thing. And now that, like, one of the nitpicks that I have is they're going to do that Black Widow movie. And now I'm just like, all right, well, now it's just a prequel.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't care to see a prequel about her story.
I am more interested in her like, if they do the whole stuff, was it the Red Room?
Mm-hmm.
I'm into that. I want to see the bitch getting tortured and stuff. I don't like her. I'm sorry. I do not like her. But my biggest beef with that scene, and probably that was, like, the one scene that I was just kind of like, ugh. Like, I actually even, like, moved my hands, like, oh my god. Like, frustrating me is that, obviously, Hawkeye doesn't want her to sacrifice herself, and she doesn't want him to sacrifice himself. And they kind of start fighting, and they get to a point where both of them could have easily just, like, fell from the cliff thing and died, and then it's like, are you stupid? It's like, if somebody just throws themselves out, it's just like, let them go. Like, you have a bigger mission. Like, you're doing all of this to bring, you know, not just people back, but, like, in my head, that's more important, the animals back.
The animals, the plants. And...
yeah, but, like, you know, and you're gonna that, like, there was a point that they could have easily just
talked it out.
died. Boom, boom, boom. And then what? And even worse, like, they wouldn't have been able to tell everybody else that, oh, by the way, like,
we failed.
We both died, and you guys
Yeah.
can be waiting for us, but we're not coming back.
Yeah, and I thought that maybe when they would put the stones back, that would imply that they put the soul stone back, and then that's where Nat would come back. And they tried to make it a point, at the very least, to say that she can't come back, because then that's that. But then that's the whole time travel thing again, which is like, okay, well, if that means that she can't undo that, because then that would bring the stone back and whatever, well, you had to undo all the other things, so the time travel kind of self-defeating. And maybe they can do something like that if they ever really wanted to in the future. Maybe it could be like that. I mean, there's so many ways that they could do stuff in these movies because of the comics being like they retcon things all the time and things are crazy. And actually, this is a completely random aside note, but this is something that I really kind of feel is a missed opportunity. I wanted them to do something in like an end credit scene. Ideally, I was hoping that there is no end credit scene and there's no mid credit scene. And I wanted there to be, first off, I wanted there to be a Stan Lee tribute. Like, I mean, they did that for
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, they did it for that, and I kind of wanted there to be a better cameo for Stan Lee, but it was funny. It's younger Stan Lee, and he's all hippie kind of thing. But I wanted there to be maybe something like Stan Lee is the one above all, and that's like God in the comics. Like, I mean, literally the one above all. And maybe some kind of a shot where he was talking about like that things have changed, but everything can always change, or, you know, like some kind of closure, but open-endedness. But I also wanted there to be a shot of Kang the Conqueror. And for anybody who doesn't know Kang the Conqueror, he is related to Reed Richards, and he is obviously one of the main Fantastic Four members. So they couldn't really do the Fantastic Four stuff, but if they would have been able to get the rights to Kang, or even just something that alludes to Kang, and Kang's mostly time travel related, where he, like in the Avengers cartoon, they do a story where he comes back in time to try to do something with Captain America, because Captain America is like a man out of time, and he should have died in the 40s, so he's disrupting the time stream and whatever. And that's this whole movie, is that they jump 5 years into the future, and now everybody knows that they disappeared for 5 years. And if they don't know, then that means that the time travel's all fucked up, and you keep going. That's why I need people to map this stuff out. And I kind of feel like maybe that's exactly what they should have done, is had Kang say something like, well, as a byproduct of all these time travel things, everything's going to be different, and they're going to be able to include the X-Men, because now Magneto should have had his whole thing in the Holocaust. You mean to tell me that Magneto is going to somehow pop up in a future MCU movie and it's not going to be Magneto? Like, and if so, where was Magneto for the past 70 years? Or, you know, like that. I wanted there to be, you've got this MacGuffin of changing time and space and minds and souls and all that. That could have been the perfect way to incorporate all the Fox stuff and just say, we merged a bunch of timelines, and now things are going to be different, and maybe some stuff in the past has changed, and now anything in the future that they have messed up, like, you look into other canon and continuity problems and you go, well, that's a continuity problem because the snaps happened. And they didn't do that. So that's like the fan in me that's like, you missed out on that, and you missed out on the opportunity to do that with bringing Black Widow back. And if you wanted to do a movie like what I wanted the Black Widow movie to be, which was her in whatever the modern time is, and possibly training a new Black Widow or something like that, and that could have been like Florence Pugh's character or whoever else is in the movie, I don't know. And maybe that could have been incorporated in there. Now, if it's just a prequel, it's like, all right, well, she survives and whatever, and that's just the end. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm disappointed in the Black Widow stuff. That was a miss. And they even like didn't have her in the scene of all the women fighting together because she was dead.
She's dead.
But it was like, you know, she's the main woman that started it all in the MCU, like that kind of thing. And it's like that's kind of a missed opportunity a little bit. And...
Big eye roll. I still don't like her. Like I would say though, and obviously that's like not even like well, I guess the one positive thing that I can say about her character is that I enjoy the fact that I first like the last movie she had the blonde short hair, and now she's just been kind of like a mess, like working nonstop. So like her hair is like half red, which is I guess her
roots are showing.
Roots, yeah, and then like, and I felt that was like cool because, you know, if you want to establish that she's been also like depressed and like barely eating, like we see a scene of her like peanut butter sandwich and like just like trying to work and also like upset with like the whole like Hawkeye thing that they talk about in the beginning of the movie. You would assume that she doesn't have her shit together.
Yeah.
So and that's like such a little thing, but as a girl, it's something that really bothers me in movies where you can see like the female character going through hell, or like even like a zombie apocalypse, makeup done, hair perfectly placed, shaved everywhere, like they're, you know, like which I mean I get, like I'm not against shaving, I'm very pro shaving, but you know, like if you want to establish that character's going through a lot and you know she's barely eating, you'd expect her appearance to also just like be which I thought it was a nice touch,
and even a nice touch with like Cap shaving his beard, like, and he's
because
trying to get...
he's one of the characters who's kind of like he's trying to not move on, but like
he's
going.
The ever optimist, and and I liked, and there were some other characters that they didn't really do too much, like I mean, Black Panther only pops up for a little bit, but I like how they gave him a little bit of a chance to shine, and he's kind of carrying the football a little bit with the like he's got a little shot where he's kind of taking charge, and it almost kind of felt to me like there's a back and forth between him and Captain America where he sort of takes this like nod. It's being like, well, maybe I'll be like the Captain America going forward. And because we're going to have obviously another type of Avengers meetup type thing. Like we're not going to get the Avengers anymore. And that's because we're missing 3 of them essentially. But we'll see Black Panther team up with somebody, and we'll see a crossover between this person and that person, and Black Panther is insanely popular, and they didn't even make a second movie yet. So, of course, he's going to be a big, big part of that. And Shuri is going to take over for Tony Stark a little bit. And, you know, they're going to kind of do that. And Scarlet Witch is kind of kicking some ass. And I've never really liked the Scarlet Witch character. But I liked that she had a little bit of a chance to shine. And WandaVision is a dumb fucking name for this TV show that they're doing. It's a stupid name to go with, but I hope that the movie or the TV show, the series that they're going to do is at some point, obviously Vision has to come back because it's WandaVision. They would, you know, whatever. So I'm assuming Shuri makes Vision back to like normal, and then I'm kind of curious to see where they take that, and
hopefully wearing preppy clothes again.
And making some paprika or whatever. They kind of wrapped that up nicely. There was a part in this where Hawkeye is talking to her, and he says, "I wish I could tell her," meaning Natasha, that we won. And Wanda says they both know, which I don't know if that means Vision or if that means Quicksilver. I'm assuming it means Vision.
Yeah, but which is kind of like shitty because you also
like you lost your brother. Yeah,
your twin brother.
Yeah, who is like your entire world.
Yeah, exactly.
So they kind of wrap that up well enough, and they're going to do a TV show, so that's, you know, that's good. And I liked how they did with Sam and Bucky,
Mm-hmm.
where they're definitely like buds now, and they're going to be the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show. And this kind of brings into the Captain America thing, where it's like, I was incredibly nervous about Captain America getting killed, and I really didn't want Captain America to die in this. But I like the idea. My end story for Captain America in my mind is always, he finds a way to be happy, he lives until he's old, and then he dies.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like Captain America as a character needs to be an old man who dies and gets buried as a war hero.
Yeah.
If he does anything other than that, it seems weird that he doesn't get to be an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And
also amazing makeup and
CGI for old Cap.
That was really good.
Yeah, he looks, I mean, that's going to be really weird to see, like, when we're older, to see if Chris Evans looks like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you never really know, and if he does, then that's going to be like, he already got a chance to see what he's going to look like when he's older, and that's always kind of freaky. But it's sweet that they have that Cap goes back and he spends a whole lifetime essentially with Peggy.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit weird because in the comics he's always with Sharon after everything, and in Sharon in the movies they just kind of like, they had that one kiss and that was sort of it. And
yeah,
you know, and of course the time travel doesn't make any sense because now that means Captain America's been alive for decades in the past and just not doing anything, and
yeah,
you would feel like that means he sat through 9/11.
Oh my god,
and
that's true.
He sat through, because he went back to the 40s or 50s maybe or something like that, but I was assuming like the 40s or so, maybe even the 70s, and that means he went through Vietnam and Kuwait and Korea and Afghanistan and all this other stuff where you would think that would be, we need Captain America.
Yeah.
And in the comics, they were able to do stuff like have him fight the Russians, and it was the whole, well, there was the commies, because that was back then, it was like, that's our enemy and whatever. So you could have things like Flag Smasher and USA Agent, or US Agent, that's what makes more sense. And I kind of wonder if they're going to do something where maybe if they ever wanted to do another movie with Captain America, they could do some kind of like, in the past he was doing something and it was just kind of under the radar, or I don't know, but
yeah,
maybe they do with the spinoff of Bucky and Falcon. Maybe it's like, well, now we have Bucky isn't Captain America, which I thought that they would do. It's going to be Falcon, who has been Captain America kind of, but so has US Agent, and so has what was his name? The Patriot guy. I think his name's Josiah or something like that. Like, there's lots of other Captain America-ish people. And I don't know, I'm kind of interested in seeing a TV show based off of that. And totally random hit was they had Jarvis in it. And that's the only thing I can remember that they've ever had a character from the TV show pop up in a movie. They never did anything with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which that's a miss. No Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which means no Coulson in this movie. No, like, not even when they went back in time, no Coulson. And they still didn't bring, like, Fitzsimmons in there, and they still didn't bring Daredevil into there. And, like, it's just like, damn it. Like, this was the one chance you had left to do that, and you still didn't do it. And I know that they don't have the rights to certain things, like, they can't just take the Daredevil show and just put it on Disney Plus now because they still have like a contract with Netflix a little bit, but it's still just kind of like, damn it, like you couldn't have thrown a little reference to like that guy in Harlem who's been doing some stuff where, you know, like it's just like, fuck, I hate that. But I really like how Captain America gets to be an old man, and it sucks that Captain America is not going to be able to be a character in these movies now, where he can't like train the next Avengers, and there's not going to be like the next Spider-Man movie. He's not like working with Spider-Man or something. But
we still have those like high school videos that he had.
Yeah. But Nick Fury is back, and that's cool, and he's going to be in Spider-Man, and obviously Peter Parker was great
Yeah.
And like that was sad. That was one of those moments where it's just like, oh, there was one of the tears.
I really liked that he had that moment with Tony Stark
Yeah.
at the end before Tony dies.
It's kind of like his new Uncle Ben.
Yeah, and also it was like a good, like Tony was there when he got snapped.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, oh, you were there for me at that time. Now let me be there for you.
And I
really nice.
Totally skipped over it, but I should mention it. One of the moments, and this is the only moment that I've ever, I think, teared up in happiness from a movie, was when Cap gets Mjolnir. And I had been waiting for that since the first Avengers movie, and I was just like, that's something I really want to see.
You said it to me too, like maybe like just before we left to the movies. Like, you really wanted that to happen.
Because it's especially like in Age of Ultron where he just budges it, like that was already enough for me to be like, I got goosebumps and this is crazy and stuff. And for him to not only pick it up, but it to be this big triumphant moment, and for him to keep using it, like, I mean, he carries it back in time and everything, and it's like Cap holding the shield and having Mjolnir's, like, that's a really cool moment because it means that he's completely come full circle to, he doesn't doubt himself anymore,
right?
And he's fully worthy because he's got the warrior side to him, and he's nobility and all that, and that's like, he's got not only that, but he's got the dragon scale type of looking costume, which is a little bit closer to the comics. So that's like, they checked off everything that they needed to do with Captain America at this point. And everything else, like U.S. Agent and Flag Smasher and all that, like, that's a shame that they can't do that, but who's to say that they can't do that in some other capacity? Or, I mean, you can't literally do every storyline. They never did the story of Tony Stark being a drunk, and they never did, like, he and Black Widow have a sex tape, or like they did in the Ultimate story, or, but that, like, if they wouldn't have had something like the Mjolnir thing, I would have been pissed about that. And got teary-eyed about that, which is really pitiful, but
no, it's not.
that was a great moment in that. And other character-wise, I mean, I don't know if there's anybody that we didn't really necessarily hit on. Doctor Strange is just kind of like, all right, my plan worked.
Yeah.
And that's cool, but he didn't really do much. War Machine's just kind of there as like a bit player. He's not really doing anything too like out there that we need to be like, this great character arc. I really liked how when they went back throughout the different times that they had stuff like when they see Peter and he's singing Come and Get Your Love, that they see it from the perspective of that they can't hear the music, so he's just kind of humming it to himself and stuff.
Yeah, like, that was like the one thing that music-wise that I was talking about in the non-spoiler part of this is like, it's so cool because like it really makes you think that, oh, like they really went back and we get to see like what happened.
Yeah.
With a different like pair of lenses on, and I thought that was really cool. And so he's like an idiot. Yes.
Yeah. So I like that a lot. I like how they incorporated a lot of like little cameos. Like they have Thunderbolt Ross is at the funeral, and they've got. That's something that I don't know.
Anybody talk about that.
Anybody in the comments, who was that fucking kid in the funeral? There was like I don't know, like a 15-year-old boy or something, and we can't figure out who that was supposed to be, and that's multiple people. It's not just the two of us.
No,
like,
yeah, and I mean, granted, they had like a couple behind that kid, that we're just guessing were people like that maybe worked for Tony or whatever, but the camera stopped on that kid for like a split second. It kind of held there for a little bit, as if we're supposed to go like, oh, okay, he's there. John is there. Like, no idea who he is.
Yeah, that was confusing, and I'm trying to look through the IMDb right now to see if there's anybody that I can go like, oh, okay, that was like Harley from Iron Man 3 or something, and it didn't look like him.
Right.
So, is Harley on there? So maybe
Harley Keener?
Maybe that was actually him. Let's see what Ty Simpkins looks like nowadays, because if he looks like him, then that would make a lot more sense. I think that was him.
That's it. Okay,
so
your theory was right.
They incorporated Harley, which is good, because he was a big part of Iron Man 3, which I don't really like Iron Man 3 a whole lot, but I forgot Maria Hill in there. I don't know where she got... She was obviously in there because she got unsnapped, but, like, I didn't get to really see that she was in there, so for a second I was like, oh, they forgot about her. They had Korg and Meek, and, that was a funny thing.
That was awesome. Meek eating some pizza.
Yeah.
That was really cute.
It's like, scissor hands and all that. Thanos in this movie, not as good as the first time.
Agreed.
I'd say it's a little bit of a miss, because he was just sort of filling the part of, like, guy that they have to fight.
Yeah, but also, I mean, yeah, I agree with you. But I also have to say that he was a big positive for you in the first movie.
Yeah.
Like, you told me that you actually, like...
kind of rooted for him.
Yeah, you, like, understood where he was coming from and all that. And, like, I watched it, and obviously, duh, but I get it. Like, he, in that movie, is a very complex villain, which makes him a better villain, because it's not just, you know, like a villain from, like, a movie from the 80s where he just wants to kill everybody and burn everything. But yeah, I guess, I mean, and it's hard because it's a 3-hour movie and there's so many characters, but he's an important character. So maybe if we had, like, one scene where it was more like a...
I don't know, because his motivation is basically just, I guess I'm gonna have to do the thing I already did.
Well, he kind of makes it towards the end. He just wants to get rid of everybody then.
Yeah, and
restart.
That is also kind of, I guess, a little bit of a nod to the comics with the Heart of the Universe thing, and it's one of the few comics I've actually bothered to read, which was, it's a non-canon story, which it shouldn't be because it's really good, and that's that the thing that's stronger than the Infinity Gauntlet is the Heart of the Universe, because instead of it being something that influences the universe, it actually is the universe. And there's something with, like, kind of like an entropy sort of thing where the universe is sort of dying, and Thanos becomes one with the Heart of the Universe, and he realizes that the only way to fix it isn't to do something like create new resources and whatever like that. It's that he needs to erase the whole universe and start it all over again.
Yeah.
And he does that with Adam Warlock, and that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of a nod to that, where they were like, you know, I gotta bring it down to the last atom and then rebuild it. Nobody's gonna know.
Yeah.
And all that. So I kind of like that. Way before this movie even started, years ago, before Infinity War, my theory for how this movie was going to work wasn't going to be time travel related, because we didn't get into, like, Ant-Man and stuff yet. I thought once we got the Infinity Stones into the mix with the first Avengers and everything, I was thinking, okay, we're going to get to the Infinity War type of story, Infinity Gauntlet story, and then they're going to do the snap, and then they're going to come across the Heart of the Universe, and they're going to undo it by using, like, the more powerful MacGuffin thing. And they didn't incorporate it in the movie, and that's fine. Not a nitpick. Not going to be a miss for me.
Yeah.
But once we had the whole gauntlet in Infinity War, I was thinking it's a little too tempting for them to not have Iron Man's, like, not gloves, because it's not really a glove, but, like, there's so much built onto the hands in Iron Man, and it's like, well, he is the main character. He needs to snap his fingers at some point and have an Iron Man gauntlet. Yeah. And so I was kind of prepared that they would probably do that, but I didn't think that they would kill him off. And I guess I kind of, like, convinced myself that they wouldn't, because I didn't want it to happen.
Yeah, I think that's
but I'm 50-50 on Iron Man's death.
Agreed.
Like, I'm really disappointed that we're not going to get any more Robert Downey Jr. And I'm really disappointed that we're not going to get Tony Stark as the head of the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D. And the same thing with Captain America. Like, I wanted him to be the head of Avengers.
Because you love his character. He's, like, probably one of your favorites.
Yeah.
He's the asshole.
Yeah.
He's, like, the lovable... And I love him, too. But I I felt that early on, and maybe it's because like I wasn't in so much denial as you were, but early on when Cap and Black Widow and Scott come and find him to bring this idea of time traveling, we see that he now like lives in this like cabin, really nice cabin with Pepper and their daughter, who's like so cute as well. But he says it clear, like he has a good thing going on right now. He has a family. He doesn't want to mess with time traveling and potentially not have his daughter anymore, which makes sense to me. And when he said that, I was like, okay, so it's gonna be the case where in the end he's either gonna have to sacrifice himself, or he's gonna be put in a situation where, you know, he would have to be like, okay, I guess I'm gonna have to be okay not having my daughter for now to save all the people. So I felt that he was gonna either lose his life or kind of like, in a way, lose his will to live because that's his daughter. And I agree with you that it was kind of like, I'm torn about it because, yeah, I love his character, but I also felt that made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, proof that Tony Stark has a heart at the end, because it's an ongoing thing through the movies that he's, like, the playboy, and he plays it cool all the time, but we all know that he is a loving person. And he wouldn't be Iron Man if he didn't care. He's not just doing that for fame and what have you. So.
And he gets a goodbye with his dad.
He does.
Which isn't
really
like,
nice.
You know, I mean, he doesn't get a goodbye with his mom, and he doesn't get a goodbye with every single person and all that, but he gets a goodbye with Peter and with Pepper, and I kind of assume that maybe if they ever want to do it in the future, where his daughter becomes Ironheart from the comics, and even though that's not the same character and all that, but you know, they could do something like that where she like inherits her dad's intelligence and whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I don't care about Morgan Stark. Like, you know, it's just sort of my ideal scenario if I were writing this would have been that they needed to go and undo the snap right after the snap, and that they would have had everybody just kind of reform almost immediately afterward. And the only people that would have remembered that the snap happened and that they would have spent 5 years in the future are War Machine and Cap and Natasha and Thor and like the main people that kind of did that. But everybody like Peter would think that they snapped away and just kind of reformed immediately. And Doctor Strange would have been like, we're in the end game now.
Yeah.
And then no, he says there was no other way. And then it would be like, okay, a couple seconds ago, I just said there is no other way. And if that would have happened, then that would have made sense with me for at the beginning of Infinity War when he says that he had a dream that they had a kid, and it felt so real to him that they would have had to undo the kid. And the way to get around that, which is like, that's kind of like almost like, you know, making a statement about, I guess, like abortion or something, but they could have gone around that by having it where Tony Stark retires for real this time, kind of, and he and Pepper decide that they're going to try to have a kid, and then there's maybe some kind of a shot of like them at a wedding or something, and she's pregnant. Because then it's like, okay, well then they have the kid on the way, and it might not be the same exact kid. Maybe it's like, maybe Morgan Stark is going to be a boy this time instead, or maybe it is just going to be the same kid, and it's in a different timeline. So they'll have the kid, but the kid's not going to remember a like universe where trillions and quadrillions or whatever of lives were completely destroyed. She is just going to have to hear about that from her dad, that like, oh yeah, I came back in time, and like, you know, like that kind of a thing. And then they can do that and have Iron Man not be in any of the future movies if Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to do anymore, without having to kill off the character to make it to where now you just can't have him in the movies. You know, like, and if they did it that way, like they could have incorporated him being like a Jarvis type, so he could talk to his daughter, or if they ever wanted to do something like, it would be kind of interesting and they wouldn't do it, but like maybe even like that he would be the voice inside of the suit that Spider-Man has. And like, they could have done stuff like that, and that's
you
a
just
nitpick.
don't want to let Downey go.
I don't want to.
You
No,
have to.
I wanted Captain America to lead the Avengers and Tony Stark to lead Shield, and like I wanted it to be like that, and that's gonna be something that I'm gonna have to just deal with. That you can't always get what you want. And I kind of feel like the people that are gonna dislike this movie, part of them is because of reasons like that.
Yeah.
And it's super sad, and at the same time, it's really kind of good that they ended things where it feels like it's an ending. But we can still have another Black Panther. We can still have another Ant-Man, and
not all stories.
Yeah,
are,
clearly Captain Marvel is going to be in another movie, and she's got that stupid haircut, and
I was not a fan of that either. I'm glad that they actually talked about it real quickly. It's like, oh, what have you been up to? Getting another haircut?
Yeah.
The Rocket, obviously.
They kind of needed to, because she's had that haircut in the comics and stuff, and but I don't like that haircut, and I don't like Captain Marvel still. She's not like, if they are going like, well, we killed off Iron Man and we killed off Black Widow and we killed off essentially Captain America, and we still don't have Vision, and we still don't have this, and we still don't have that, but we've got Captain Marvel for you. It's like, well, okay, well, we're just going to refer to this as like the good era of the MCU.
Right.
And then everything that's following is like B+ level. Like Captain Marvel is, if they want to go with Captain Marvel being like the new head of the Avengers, that's not as good.
Right. I agree. I mean, we talked about this just as when we watched the movie Captain Marvel together, Tony the second time. The movie's very enjoyable, but she is a blunt character.
Yeah. And
it sucks because, like, you would be an easy character to like if she had a little bit more personality.
Yeah, and she doesn't need to be funny because there are already funny people.
Yeah,
she doesn't need to
be interesting.
Yeah, she could be something.
Yeah.
Right now, they write her out for this movie for almost the entire movie because they just clearly didn't have an idea of what to do.
Right.
And she just she's been gone for decades because they didn't need it to be in the 90s, and I already talked about that before. But
like that, though.
they wrote her off as being like, well, she's on other planets. And then she comes back in here and she's like, all right, well, let's go fuck up Thanos. And then they do, and then it's all right, well, I'm just gonna go fuck off for a while again. And then she just shows up at the end, and it's like, okay, now that's good and all, but you haven't had any character growth. You've had a haircut, and that's not good enough.
No.
So I don't know how they're going to try to make her a better character in the future, but if they don't,
they're gonna
she's gonna be bland as all hell. And
you're gonna have to.
I can't imagine seeing Captain Marvel leading a group of Avengers that's like Doctor Strange and Falcon, Captain America, and whatever, and feeling like it's not just the runner-up, it's like the minor leagues in baseball or something,
Yeah.
So that's disappointing, and I mean, they couldn't do these movies forever, and I guess kind of in the same way as like Bond movies are, that's the final Daniel Craig one, and that's the final Pierce Brosnan, and at the end of Die Another Day, it kind of seems like that's a good enough write-off for Pierce Brosnan, and is that good enough? Well, not necessarily, but you can't really just keep going forever because people don't not age and stuff, and unless you have CGI. And I feel like overall, like, even though I can nitpick and even though I can complain about some certain things, it's still 20-something movies and 10 years of watching. I watched Iron Man in the theater by myself because nobody wanted to go see it.
Aww. And we weren't dating yet. That's why I wasn't there.
Nobody wanted to go see it because everybody was saying, this is during a time frame where The Dark Knight was out and stuff, and people were like, oh, it's just Iron Man. Iron Man's stupid. Like, and I was like, well, I've never really been super duper an Iron Man fan, but Iron Man was always kind of cool, and maybe they'll have War Machine, and like maybe they'll do this, and maybe we'll see Spy Master or whatever. Like, I kind of knew some of the characters, and I remember hearing that there was a post-credit scene and telling people in the movie theater, stay afterward because there's supposed to be a scene afterward, and everybody was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, I was calling them, because I had heard the term credit cookie for the longest time, of like, here's your little cookie for staying after the credits. So I was telling people, like, there's supposed to be a credit cookie, and I mean that there's a scene and whatever. And then Nick Fury pops up, and it was like, oh fuck, like they're doing Nick Fury, and it's Sam Jackson of all, like they actually got him. And because Sam Jackson Nick Fury is infinitely better than the white Nick Fury in the comics and stuff. And that was like, that blew my mind. And that was in 2008.
Yeah.
So to think that 10 years have gone by and it all led up to this and stuff, it's like, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Because they were able to pull it off. And yeah, I'm disappointed about that they killed off Tony Stark, and I'm disappointed that they killed off Black Widow, and you know, it would have been kind of cool if we had like Odin Force and all whatever like that, but it's like, you know, if you are hitting a score of like 94 out of 100 or something, you can't complain. And I really, really liked it, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, obviously, you're way more passionate than I am. Like, I really enjoyed and obviously enjoyed watching all the movies. I didn't really experience most of the movies in the theaters. Tony made me watch all of them. And he watched most of them with me, which is great. Obviously, I loved it. But again, as somebody who's not beyond obsessed with those Marvel characters, and I mean, obviously like a lot of them, I think it was good. I think it was like a very pleasing way to wrap up some of those storylines and make those characters have like a decent ending. Because at the end of the day, even though Tony Stark died, he died as the true hero that he was.
Mm-hmm.
And with Cap, like, we both agreed that he should be with Peggy.
Yeah.
And he got to experience that, and he was happy. And everybody else are still kind of like doing their own stuff and progressing their own like stories. So I think it was really awesome. And I also just wanted to quickly say that Tony Stark looks so like beat down and so skinny in the beginning of the movie. That was also really good. Visual effects. That was really, really good. Because Carrie's skinny. But yeah, it was fun. Just wish I had not had so much soda.
So what would you say is your biggest miss of the movie? The thing you disliked the most?
That I disliked the most?
I'm obviously going to go with the fact that they killed off certain characters and that they didn't, like all that stuff that I kind of mentioned about the missed opportunities of how you could bring certain people back and all that. Like, that's my biggest miss, is no setup for the future by having everybody still be alive and all that. Like, you know, that's my miss.
I'm not like hating on anything, but I feel like there were two things that for me could have been a little better, and one would probably be explaining some of these like time traveling caveats. Like the Nebula thing like confuses me.
Yeah. Like
that, and I like her character a lot. She's actually like probably my top 10 characters or like 5 characters, because I feel like she's such a sad character. And in this movie she had really like sweet moments in the beginning with Tony Stark when he's like teaching her how to play, and he's like, you don't have to be so angry. This is fun. Are you having fun? And she's like, yes. And it's like, aw. And then later with War Machine, where she reaches to get one of the stones and damages her arm, and she gets embarrassed, and she's like, I wasn't always like this. And he's like, yeah, me neither. We just kind of have to deal with what we got. And I was like, she needed that. She needs a hug. So, but then, like, confusing. I really thought that she was going to die when she kills her form. So I would maybe, like, obviously it's hard to explain time traveling because I'm guessing that even Tony Stark wouldn't be able to fully explain that. But maybe tighten that up a little bit. And I agree with you about Thanos. I think that
I guess the only explanation is if they went back and they put all the stones back, then that means all the events happened, which means that Nebula didn't go to the future, which means she didn't die. But that's all so confusing.
But wouldn't...
None of it makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, again, like, this is, like, nitpicking because I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what would you say is your biggest hit that you really liked the most out of everything? That's, if I'm going to have to go with anything other than the fact that, like, really nice little touches here and there of things like Happy telling Morgan, you know, your dad used to like cheeseburgers too.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really, really good little moment.
Yeah.
And I think that the Russos are so good at that. Like, because, I mean, obviously they did stuff like having Loki disappear, and it's like, that's going to do something in the future.
Yeah.
And they're going to play into that. And, like, they know how to do these little moments. And the Cap thing with, I could do this all day, and, like, whatever. Like, they're good at that. And that was a good little tie into Iron Man and that whole scene of him, like, we gotta stop and get burgers and stuff. Like, I really like that, but I would probably say if I had to pinpoint one thing in particular, it was just the idea of Cap with the Mjolnir and all that. Because that's just the one moment out of everything that was just like, that kind of symbolizes a character journey and all that. And having him do that and say, with hundreds of characters, Avengers assemble, because they had been building that up, like, that idea of just like, this is full-blown 10 out of 10 Captain America Avengers kind of thing. And since we're not going to get any more Captain America, and we're not going to get any more, you know, all these characters that really, really matter for, like, you know, Spider-Man and everybody, like, in the mix and stuff, like, this was the one and only time that they could have done it, since they didn't do it yet. So they needed to do the Avengers Assemble thing, and that's, like, that was like, like, you know, they said it, like, kind of thing.
I think for me, aside from all the funny moments, and again, like, Hulk is so cute, like, he's so sweet when he's, like, in the car, in the truck, he's like a little kid, like, adorable. But I think that my biggest hit was, like, these little, like, character moments, like, character-driven moments where, you know, like, Thor talking to his mom, Tony talking to his dad, and having these, like, quiet moments where we are reminded that, like, why we love these characters so much. And it's not just because they're, like, badasses and they're heroes. It's because, like, they have that human side to them. And at the end of the day, when we're watching movies, we want to connect to human side of characters. So I think that was awesome.
So obviously we're going to give this movie a hit.
Yeah.
We're not going to go through all that and talk about all the things we love and be like, it sucked. You know? But yeah, I don't have anything else to say that I can think of. I'm sure if I watch it 14 more times, I'm going to have more things to be like, would have been interesting if they would have put this character's name on the memorial, or, like, you know, different things, or I didn't notice that this thing happened in the background and that was really neat, or, you know, whatever. But we just saw the movie an hour ago, so you know.
Totally worth watching it, for sure.
Yeah.
Even though it's a bit of a mess to get, like, tickets and everything's, like, sold out, but totally worth it. And totally, like, a movie that if you can watch it in the big screen, you should.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Thank you for listening to an hour and a half of us talk about this stuff. Which, you could go on and on for hours and hours and hours, but, you know, we'll revisit it at some point and talk about some different things in the future. And anything else that's going on, you'll find that on fanboysanonymous.com, which you can find everything else that's Fanboys related. So hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, ring the little bell for the notifications to be aware of whatever the next video is going to be, which I have no idea what it's going to be because I'm playing this stuff out as well. And if you are listening on the audio only kind of side of things, like on Anchor or on Google Play or anything like that, then go ahead and leave a review. Give us a like or a follow or whatever they have on those different platforms. And while you're doing that, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Fanboys Anon on Twitter and Fanboys Anonymous on Facebook. And check out everything else that's happening on Fanboys Anonymous. You can follow me personally at Tony Mango, and obviously at like Smart Count Moment for the wrestling side of things, and blah, 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 all that other kind of stuff. I do plenty of plugs every single week on everything. So if you like this and you want to throw some spare change in my direction to kind of keep the lights on and promote some other ideas and convince me to do some more fanboy stuff that isn't just a review point, then hit up the Patreon and consider donating a little bit to those tiers there, whether it's like $1 or $50,000, which that'd be awesome if you did. Then there's that. There's also a TeePublic and a Redbubble shop where you can pick up some merchandise that they haven't taken down yet for copyright reasons, because they keep doing that. So if you wanted to buy a whatever it takes shirt, you're going to have to wait a little bit for me to re-upload something like that. And everything else that's on Fanboys, you'll find on Fanboys. Caroline, do you want to toss anything else out there?
Nothing as exciting, but you can follow me on Instagram at creepy_Caroline. I'm gonna hopefully figure out a website for myself soon where you, if you're interested in art, you can maybe commission some paintings or some creepy sculptures. We'll see. But that's it.
Thanks for listening to this, everybody. Drop your comments below and tell us what you thought of Endgame and anything else. Whether you thought of something that, you want to chime in and say that I've got a stupid idea about something about Endgame or whatever.
Or maybe you liked Thor's tits.
Yeah,
maybe that was your thing.
Maybe your biggest hit was the moobs. And you think that we're crazy for not liking that. But anything else like that, then continue the discussion and I'll be replying to you guys and we'll kind of keep talking about the movie because there's plenty of stuff to talk about. And the same will continue with the future of the MCU because Spider-Man Far From Home will pop up and we'll be talking about that. And, we'll kind of keep this train going as long as they're able to do it. So thank you again for listening to this, everybody, and all your support. And we will see you next time. But for now, it's time for us to geek out.